extremely excited to present this research to you. We're really hoping this is actually the catalyst for some change within the audio industry. And we hope from this you take a lot out of it and we start to see some action from it. So this is the title of our presentation. It's audio, it's not you, it's us, and you'll see why. So today, starting off, we want to give you a big headline. So we're going to show you how to make your audio advertising 40 times more effective. And why the problem isn't audio. The problem is us as advertisers, marketers, how we're using it. And that's actually what's potentially driving some of the ineffectiveness and why some of the correlation between investment and audience increases are not in the same path. So why are we in the position to tell you this at OMD? Well, 5 years ago, we were looking to understand what was going on from a market perspective. We were looking at how we should be planning audio, how the channels work in conjunction, what the different levels of engagement are with the formats, attention, how did all that all work together, how effective they were. And there was no research out there that looked at cross-audio channel consumption and engagement and how they worked as together. So we decided to create our own. And this was a big leap for us, but Mette and her market intelligence team, alongside a number of partners, which we'll talk to you about in a minute, decided to build this piece of research out. And it has evolved over time, over the last 5 years. And this is what we're going to present to you today, is actually the third iteration of the research. So the research explores trends around listenership, and now we can see those trends over the last 5 years. How Australians are connecting with audio, how they engage with the different audio channels, what the relationship they have with the different audio ads, which is really important. And in this study today, you're going to see a lot around creative and messaging, which is a big focus that we put into this research for this iteration.
All right, thanks so much for having us. So as you can see, Thad's got the really punchy slides and I've got the researchy slides, so I'm going to talk through them. But they're really important slides, and the research that we will present to you today is based off a really significant portion of people. So over the last 3 iterations of this research, we have talked to more than 21,000 people in Australia. So these are people who are listening to commercial audio on a weekly basis. We have tested 42 different creatives, and most of those creatives were tested in this last iteration, so we'll talk about that creative later on in the presentation. We have had 11 different of our clients involved across 9 different categories. So everything that we'll show you today is based off people who are listening to commercial audio. We do have stream music as part of that. That is free stream music, so music with ads on it, just so you know as we go through. And as Thad just said, this is all possible due to our partners that we have been partnering with for the past 5 years over those 3 different iterations. So thank you to Nine, Acast Nova, Spotify, Aaron, SCA, and ATN for making this possible.
So let's get into why it's not audio. So there's a real paradox at the moment. The investment is not following the audiences in terms of audio. Audio can reach almost all Australians in the country, the people we want to talk to anyway, and listenership is increasing year on year across all different audio platforms. Audio has some of the highest engagement of any channel across the channel mix, and there's a real intimacy with the audience, as we heard from the panel before, that you cannot get from a lot of other mediums. And finally, audio creative, when done correctly, can be super, super powerful. But as I said, at the moment, the investment isn't following the trends that we're seeing and the power of the channel.
All right, so looking at some of the stats from our research, we can see that listenership, so people listening more than they did the year before, is up across all channels by 31%. And once someone starts listening to audio, they get quite addicted. So 3 hours a day on an average is what people listen to. Obviously, that varies depending on channels. So some channels will see higher listenership, and we'll get back into that in a minute. But yeah, across all channels, we're seeing audio listenership being up. And when we break that down, so basically what we're doing here is we're looking at the actual listenership. Was it up year on year? And what do people forecast that to be this year? So across everything, actual listenership was up in 2024. So podcasts saw the highest increase of people listening more than they did the year before at 43%. Stream music was up 30%, and broadcast radio was also up at 15%. So the forecasted growth, as you can see, I said it was 31% across everything. There is a bit of a difference between the channels. But interestingly, every time we've done this research, people always forecast less than what they actually end up doing. So they end up listening more than they forecasted that they would, and that's been kind of consistent over the last 5 years. The other stat that we've got here, or not actually a stat, but the growth across the board is coming from the younger audience. I think I cut that just so that I could be part of that younger audience. We've got 21,000 people that we talk to, so we can cut this by lots of different demographics, and we do that at the agency. But yeah, the younger audience is what's driving this growth. And as I said, once people start listening to audio, they listen quite a lot. So 76% of a audio listener will listen on a daily basis. Again, that is different by channels. So broadcast radio is seeing the highest listenership on a daily basis. But I think we just talked about podcasts, and I think they were listening 3 times a week is what you said. So podcast listenership, for example, doesn't see that high frequency every day. But on a weekly basis, 90% of listeners do tune in and listen to their podcast.
And that's really down to the connection that all of the formats have as part of the audience's life on a daily basis as well. Now, this is a really exciting stat and something we're really keen to share with you. Firstly, that all audio has really high attention. This is higher than most video formats, so just to call that out. What we also see is that podcasts, which is no surprise, has the highest attention for listeners at 74%, which is fantastic. And outside of cinema is the highest attention channel across any of the media mix. Now, there's 2 reasons why that is. So the first reason is that podcasts are that personal, one-on-one, intimate format, which we all know. But the second is that advertisers are using it in a much better way, so it's more engaging. So the ads tend to be fit for platform from a creative perspective. The ads tell a story, which is super important, and we're going to share why soon. And they make use of the talent that loose listeners are really familiar with and have that relationship with as well. So at the moment, we see 36% of all podcasts and streaming ads actually be voiced by talent at the moment, which is great. Across other audio formats, it's only 14%. So it's something that we are looking to, well, it works, and we're hoping will increase as well. But one of the stats that we did see, which did surprise us in a really nice way, was that breakfast radio actually sees higher engagement and attention levels than podcasts, which was something we initially were surprised by. So we did a lot of digging into why this was. And the reason for it is the relationship that audiences have with talent. It's the relationship they have with talent that drives engagement. So you think about the relationship people will have with podcast talent, also with their breakfast and drive talent from a radio perspective. That's what's actually driving the engagement levels across the board. And that's really important. So we wanted to get a bit more deeper into that as well. So we looked at what happens when using talent compared to standard advertising. So when you use talent, all of your brand metrics that we care about from an advertising and marketing perspective are more effective. So they're more trustworthy, more relevant, more authentic, and really importantly, they're less annoying as well, which is something that comes up a lot, really strongly in this in this research. So this is across the board from a talent perspective. We did look at this from, we were really interested to see what happened from a traffic perspective as well. And because they feel part of the show, read by talent, they're seen as even more trustworthy and relevant and authentic. So these metrics are the ones that we care about from a brand perspective. We also wanted to understand if they correlated to an effective perspective. And what we saw was that talent-led messaging actually drove twice as strong call to action than branded commercials, which is huge. And that's across the board in all of the metrics that we looked at. So whether that be consideration, visiting a website, or likelihood to buy and buying, all those metrics were significantly higher. Really, really interesting, really, really strong, really, really gives us a direction that we can use for our media moving forward. But don't just take our word for it. We want you to listen to 2 ads. The first is a standard ad, and then the second is a podcast ad done in context with the podcast by Riley Knight, who hosts the Half-Assed History podcast. Thank you to Acast for lending his talent. But have a listen to the 2 and you'll get a feel for how much more impactful using the talent and the context of the show can be in driving effectiveness.
Find your inspiration this holiday season with Whitsunday Wonders, providing unforgettable holiday experiences in the heart of Australia's tropical paradise. Our expert local guides have crafted holiday packages tailored to suit every adventure, from fun-filled family holidays to intimate couples retreats, with comprehensive itineraries including sailing, snorkeling, hiking and relaxation, with beachfront accommodation and exclusive resorts nestled in the idyllic surrounds of Australia's iconic Great Barrier Reef. Make your next holiday unforgettable. Explore, relax, discover the Whitsundays. Visit whitsundaywonders.com.au and find your next adventure today.
Now, nothing wrong with that ad, but it's something that you would hear alongside 6 others very similar in an ad break.
Today's show is brought to you by Whitsunday Wonders. We love a bit of maritime history here on Half-Assed History, but I tell you what, if there was one place I could sail a ship these days, it would be to the beautiful Whitsunday Islands in the great state of Queensland. The white sandy beaches, the crystal clear waters. It's honestly like something out of a tale from the golden age of piracy, minus the looting and the plundering and whatnot. Swap your cutlass for a cabana, your hook for a hammock, and plan your Whitsunday adventure today. Don't forget, the whole reason they mutinied on the Bounty, episode 46, get across it, was that they didn't want to leave the tropics. And honestly, I get it. The Whitsundays are that good. Whatever you're looking for, outside of bloodthirsty piracy or a large-scale mutiny probably, you'll find the perfect holiday with Whitsunday Wonders, with tailored packages to suit every adventure. Make your next holiday unforgettable. Explore, relax, discover the Whitsundays. Visit whitsundaywonders.com.au and find your next adventure today.
Now, for anyone going to search Whitsunday Wonders, that does not exist. We created that through our AI platform, OMD. But as you can see, there's a real difference in the 2 types of creative, and one is much more powerful.
All right, so before we head off to Whitsundays, we have a little bit left of the presentation. So one of the questions that we ask in the survey is around, enjoyability of the ads and if people are okay with listening to ads on audio. So 64% are either happy with the amount of ads that are currently on the audio channels that they listen to. Some of that is also people who are wanting to listen to more ads. So all in all, we're actually in a really good place to have ads on audio. People are okay listening to them. However, if you skip to the next slide, one of the things that we saw when we did look into all of the 42 ads that we have tested is that most of the ads don't really grab the listener's attention. So that's a problem. We have people wanting to listen to audio ads, but they don't really grab attention. And that's important because when we look at this slide up here and dig into the numbers of what ads that drive attention actually lead to compared to those ads that do not. So the red line up here are ads that are creating or grabbing people's attention when they listen to them. The white line is the opposite, so the ads that do not grab attention. you can see the gap between the two. So some of the things that our clients are really finding really important at the moment, being memorable, creating trustworthiness, brand positivity, all those things are significantly higher amongst those ads that can grab the listener's attention. One thing I just wanted to call out, the relevancy, or relevant to me, because obviously we know that people aren't necessarily going to be in market for whatever it is that we're advertising at any given time. So the relevancy is actually less here. The gap is less, which means that it's okay that we're not relevant all the time. If our ads can grab attention, we can still have really memorable ads. We can still drive brand positivity and trustworthiness. So attention-grabbing ads, super important.
And we know why this is. And actually, this is part of one of the things we've seen for audio is that we're missing the essence of the media. It's all about creating that mental image through storytelling, and that's the power of audio. And when we can do that, it's actually 56% more likely to be remembered than actually sharing an image. So seeing an image versus hearing it and creating a mental image in your own mind, it's actually 56% more likely that you will remember it. But most of the audio ads that we reviewed didn't do that. So we're missing a trick at the moment, but we can solve it. So why is it us? Well, firstly, talk you through how powerful talent is. We're not using enough talent at the moment across the board, all audio. And we are starting to see a lot more branded commercials come in and be repurposed across all audio channels. And that's something that we want to make sure that we don't see and change. We want to be using talent, leveraging that relationship they have with their audience. They are their friend. They listen to them every day. They are their trusted advisor. We want to be leveraging that talent where possible. This is a really important one. 75% of ads in audio currently are focused on lower funnel rational messaging. Now, I was chatting to Ash on this yesterday. We've kind of been conditioned to do this as well. Like, this is where we have, as an industry, we've guided people that this is the channel to drive retail, and rational messaging is what is usually used for retail. Now, that's not necessarily the best way to use the platform, but also not the only job that audio can do. Audio can be a fantastic channel to drive all the way through the funnel, from awareness, consideration, and purchase as well. But we have to be using it in the right way with the right type of messaging.
So what we did in the research is we played the ads to the listener. As they went along, they could kind of toggle every second or any time during that ad, they could toggle along and they could tell us how appealing that format of ad is. So that's what you're seeing here. Basically, second by second, how appealing was that type of ad. So again, in a red, we've now got the ads that were able to create that mental imagery in the mind of the consumer. The blue line is the ads that had a rational message. So you can see how they kind of start at the same level. Really quickly, we're going to start to see a gap. So after 3 seconds, the rational message drops and it kind of stays flat for the remainder of the ad. The ads that were able to tell a story, however, they saw an increase, and that increase in appeal actually lasted up until the 13 second mark, and then it stayed high for the remainder of the ad. So we're going to talk a little bit about the length of ads in a minute, but here we're looking at an aggregate of all the different ads that we tested, the ones that could create that mental imagery. Even though they were quite long, some of them, they actually stayed high in that appeal. So this is where we're saying that ads that are able to tell a story, ads that can create that mental imagery with the listener, they're 40 times better than the ads that have a rational message and do not allow that mental imagery in the minds of the listener.
And I think just to call out here, if you do have a product or offer message and you do it in a storytelling way, we see the same results as we do for a brand message told in a storytelling way. So you can do that job in terms of product and offer messaging and still create mental imagery, and you will get the results that we see there in terms of 40 times more effective in your messaging.
And that also flows through to our ad diagnostics. So the same as what we saw with the ads that grab attention, the ads that tell a story versus the rational-led ads. They're more trustworthy, they're more able, or they're better at capturing attention. Basically all the brand metrics that we are interested in. If you can tell that story, the diagnostics will follow.
So despite product messaging having low attention and being less effective, 70% of our ads are actually 30 seconds or longer. So you saw before that for those product ads or rational messaging, the attention level drops off significantly. So we are using a lot of airtime that is not getting attention at the moment. And we see that in terms of the results we see in terms of attention drop off as well. So attention drops off significantly from 15 to 30, and then 30 plus is incredibly significant drop off. Now, a lot of this is driven, as we said, by the type of messaging that we're using. That rational messaging is contributing to this significantly. So why is it us again, and why is it not the audio channel? So firstly, we're not maximising the trusted talent who have that connection with the audiences on a daily basis. Secondly, we're using the channel primarily for product or offer rational messaging, which we can see is not the strongest use of the channel. Thirdly, we're using durations that are too long for product and rational messaging. And then finally, we're not actually using the power of audio to storytell and create that impactful mental image that we should be doing to really drive impact with the channel. This is a major contributor to what we're seeing in terms of effectiveness of the channel. There's a lot of conversations around markets mids modelling results. We saw that we're going to look at how we can improve measurement in the channel. If we do not change how we use the channel and start doing more storytelling creative in a really effective way that creates that mental imagery, the results won't improve to the level they need to for the investment to increase. So we want to make this a catalyst for change because we really do think that this is the key driver of effectiveness. Just touched on that. It doesn't have to be this way. So if we can understand that audio is a really powerful channel, if it's used to its full potential across the funnel, the full funnel, and you build that emotional connection with audiences through engaging storytelling, you will stand out, be distinctive, because you will be one of the only people doing it at the moment, and you have much better cut through from a business and a brand perspective and driving growth. Cool. There are key takeaways, guys. Audio expected to grow year on year significantly. Storytelling critical, we touched on. Use talent. Product or rational messaging, if you have to do it, use a 15-second. Really important on that one. When used effectively, audio can play a role all the way through the funnel. And actually one of the things we saw that we didn't take you through in the research is if you use audio channels together, they have a massive halo impact on each other, and they are way more effective than just using one audio channel on its own. And that is us. Thank you, guys. Thank you,